Hey folks, today we're going to be covering the latest Tinto Talks for Project Caesar, aka EU5, and this week Johan's going to be talking to us about country ranks, great powers, and the Hegemonies system as well. All things that were in EU4, so we'll see what differences we're getting in EU5. And he's going to start with country ranks. There are 4 ranks that a country can have in EU5. It is more similar to EU4 than Imperator, in that changing country rank is something that you actively do on your own. Besides having various rules of what a country can do, they also give some benefits, and rather importantly to the player experience, they impact what their countries are called. I mean, I guess that is the most important thing. We do like our country names and our country colours in map painters, so he's probably right there, to be honest. The code supports multiple types of ranks at the same level, so modders can in theory add dozens of variants if they so wish to, which is fantastic to hear. Modders having more abilities is always good. The default rank is the county rank, which all countries default to, unless set up to be something else. The first rank above that is Duchy rank, where you can now guarantee other countries, and you will also have a little bit higher diplomatic capacity and power projection. Countries that start at this level include the Duchy of Brittany or the Duchy of Lithuania. To be able to upgrade from a county to a duchy, you cannot be in any international organisation that disallow rank changes, and you also need to have at least 100,000 population of your primary culture. So that is obviously a change from EU4 because you didn't have population in EU4, and that is one of the requirements now. The international organisation side of that probably does make sense. As Johan's already said, in the new year, we're going to get more information about flavour for different organisations, different countries, religions, all that kind of stuff. So we'll find out more information about when that is applicable, I would imagine, in those dev diaries. The next rank above that is Kingdom rank, which requires 1 million population of your primary culture and gives a larger diplomatic range and other abilities. This includes countries like the Kingdom of Sweden and the Sultanate of Delhi. The final rank is the Empire rank, which is the hardest to promote to. This allows for a wider range of diplomatic actions and other abilities. At the start of the game, there was only one empire in Europe, and that is the Eastern Roman one. A country can become a great power before they attain the rank of empire, and there are special restrictions on Catholic countries from pretending to be emperors without the Pope's permission, which is some cool flavour. I guess you've got to go up to him, I suppose, and say, hey, can I be an emperor? Or is he just going to say, no, the Holy Roman Empire is the only empire for me? And even then, not really for him, is it? But you know what I mean. So yeah, looks like some information already around these kind of flavor things. Again, as I just mentioned, Johan has said probably January, February, we're going to start getting some information about the flavor in the game. And as you can see from this screenshot, this is the Kingdom rank. This is the tier 3, as he just said. This gives the following effects, which he didn't tell us all of them before, but you can see them here. So power projection, possible amount of artists, which I don't think he's covered at all so far in these dev diaries, diplomatic range, diplomatic capacity, maximum diplomats, great power score, can sign alliances, can guarantee, can support rebels, can threaten war, and possible rivals +3. So you can see those are the bonuses solely from having the rank. I'm sure there's other things as well. As he's already said, there's other mechanics that kind of work into this as well. This is the country rank that represents the larger countries. They have multiple provinces and can project a fair amount of power. Again, just going over what he said before. And to become a kingdom, the following must be true. We have greater than 1 million Prussian population. We are not a subject of another country. We do not have the cannot become a kingdom modifier. So you can see here, that's the breakdown of the kingdom rank for this specific country. As he's already mentioned, there is the great power system coming back. A great power is a country that through advances, population, land area development, and many other factors has risen to be one of the most powerful countries in the world, and as such gets the ability to affect other countries simply by throwing its weight around. The countries with the highest great power score become great powers. Subjects and countries fighting for their independence cannot become great powers, which I think makes sense, to be honest. You can't really be a great power if there's somebody above you controlling you in some way, so that does make sense. We've got another screenshot here, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. I kind of get the 3D art. They've shown this off before for characters. Now, I will say this screenshot looks to be very low resolution. The character models look very blurry. I imagine it looks way better in game. They probably look a lot more refined and just look better in the actual UI itself. I don't know, to me, it still looks a little bit off, does the UI? I know they've said it isn't the final one, but we've seen this UI now for, what, like 6 months or so, and there hasn't really been any changes. Again, as I said, very early in these dev diaries, the UI is probably going to be one of the last bits they improve. But I don't know about the 3D models. I know that was a contentious subject at the launch of these dev diaries. I'm on the fence still. I don't mind them because they're not really in the game a lot. And where they are in the game, I think it does give some flavour to those nations. As you can see in this screenshot, the King of France looks different to the Sultan. The Golden Horde leader looks different to the King of England. So I think they are actually pretty good for giving flavor. And again, they're not really going to be all around the game like they are in Crusader Kings. They're just going to be in certain UI elements. And I think it kind of works, but I don't know. They look kind of off. Maybe it's just because they should maybe be to the left of their flag. Maybe it just breaks up the UI weirdly that there's flags, a person, and then a bunch more flags. Maybe if the characters were to the left of the main flag, it would kind of flow a little bit better. Again, they'll probably change this UI. Well, I hope they do. I quite like the UI. It actually shows you the information you need, but it also looks like a UI designed in like 2005. So we'll see obviously in the future. But anyway, getting back to the UI itself, you can see here very similar to EU4. You can see who the great powers are, their ranks, their scores, a brief look at like their flag, who they've got as subjects or part of their realm, their name, and all those kind of things. So I think the UI again shows you the information you need. I think it needs a little bit of a spruce up though. We'll see obviously next year what kind of upgrades we see to the UI. Currently there are always 8 different countries that are great powers, but this is not a design they're 100% satisfied with. They've talked about making the amount variable per age or by using a threshold. They've also talked about mechanics for regional powers, but all designs so far have had drawbacks. So at the moment, this is basically what they've got. Not going to say it's like placeholder, but this is the best version they've done where they've tested it and it kind of works. I think the threshold may be the best one to do. I'm not too sure where you have to hit a certain score before you're seen as a great power rather than there always just being 8. So you could have like 4 really powerful nations, 2 pretty powerful, and then if the next 2 below that are just like super weak, but they're the best next 2, they're still seen as great powers, even if they're not really that powerful. I think some kind of threshold would be the best way to go about it. I don't know how else they could do it, but I think that kind of threshold is the best idea. I think variable by age is kind of a good idea as well. I mean, they have tested it, so I guess it didn't work that well. I'm not sure about regional powers. You know, if you had like an African great power, an Asian great power, and then a European, America, all the main like regions of the map, and then maybe you just took the top one from each region, unless they hit a certain threshold, then maybe you get like 2 from Europe, 1 from Asia, 1 from Africa. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. I think a mix of the 2, if they can get it working well, I think would be a good way to do it, just so it's a little bit more kind of reactive and it isn't just the top 8 scores are the top 8 ones, no matter how powerful they are. I think that could be a good way of doing it. We'll see obviously what they decide in the future. With the next screenshot, they've shown here the Japanese shogunate as a great power. Being a great power has given them the following benefits: power projection +5, diplomatic capacity +1, monthly diplomats 0.1, and can enforce a peace, yes. So these are some of the advantages you get as a great power, on top of obviously if they're a kingdom or an empire. We've already seen they are getting a bunch of these kind of bonuses already. The last part of the dev diary is going to be about hegemonies. This is another feature that was introduced with the Emperor DLC for EU4, but here it will be part of the base game. Look guys, you're not going to be paying again for features you paid for in EU4. Some of them are going to be in the base game. Well, to be honest, a lot of them are by the looks of it. In that game, this was a late game mechanic that could pit the most dominant countries against each other. This created a mechanic that most people never saw, and if they did see it in single player, it was merely a tool to make the player even more powerful when they had already won the game. I will agree with that. Empire is roughly when I kind of dropped off EU4, maybe a little bit earlier, but I definitely did play some of Emperor, and I will agree, it basically just made you more powerful than you already were, and was kind of annoying to be honest. In this game, however, the Hegemony Mechanics will unlock through an advance in the Age of Discovery, so we're going to get it earlier in the game. We currently have 3 types of hegemony: military, navy, and economic. In this game, similar to EU4, you can only be 1 type of hegemony at a time. They are looking at potentially adding a cultural hegemony as well, but they're going to talk about culture in the next couple of Tinto Talks, so I guess they might talk about it a little bit there, as they do say here. To proclaim a hegemony, you need to be a great power, you need to have a bigger army, navy, or economy than all other great powers. After you proclaim it, you get a bonus where most of it scales with how long you've held the hegemony. So I guess you're kind of weaker at the beginning, and then the more you're on top, the more powerful you get. I think that is kind of the problem with this system. If you're already at the top and then you become a hegemony, you just get better and better. I think it just naturally helps you snowball more. I'm not sure how they can balance it where it's a good mechanic, where it's fun to play, but it's also not just making you better and better. We'll see obviously what they decide on as they keep progressing through the game. In a game where a Casus Belli is not always easy to get, the fact that you can always create a Casus Belli on any hegemony, as long as you are not also one yourself, can be beneficial. I mean, that is actually quite a beneficial thing, to be honest. That will kind of balance it out, I guess, if you can always have one against one. Obviously, they're going to be very powerful, so it's going to be hard to beat them, but it is a good way to pick up a Casus Belli from somewhere. If you ever lose a war as a hegemony, you will lose that status no matter what, which I guess can knock you out of this relatively easily. And remember, if you lose your hegemony rank, your prestige and diplomatic reputation will suffer as you're seen as getting knocked down by somebody else. And then you can see here in our last screenshot what the effects are of being a military hegemony. So monthly war exhaustion 0.1, war score cost minus 10%, counter-espionage plus 10%, scaling with power also affects your army attrition, army movement speed, great power score, and at max power, siege ability plus 10%. Again, I kind of see what he's saying about EU4. I will agree with him. I think this just made the top people even better and kind of harder to go up against. From what we see here, like, I kind of think it's going to do the same again. Let me know what you think in the comments, but this is just going to make these armies even better. Like, yes, you can beat them, and if you do that, they lose this, and then they also have some fallout from being knocked out of this rank. It is just making the best people even better on top of that, so I don't know. I don't know how fun this is. I kind of get it. It is kind of realistic in a way. I know people will be laughing in the comments. It's not realistic at all, but I guess it is kind of showing that the most powerful people just naturally kind of kept that. If you think of like the British Navy during especially the Napoleonic age, where they were just like the masters of the sea, they probably had like a hegemony of the sea, if you want to think of it that way. And that kind of status wasn't lost for ages and ages. So it kind of does recreate that in a way. If you think like Napoleon, you know, once he started to expand in Europe, he was pretty much just seen as the master of Europe on land. The opposite of what I was just saying about the Navy on sea, but he was seen as this master of land, and he would have, I guess, in the game been one of these like military hegemonies. He's so good, he's just getting better, and then ultimately he was defeated, and that obviously affected things later on. So I think it's trying to like show that system in the game, but again, I do agree with Johan. I think the problem might come up again where once you hit this rank, you're just getting better and better, so it's harder and harder for the AI to ever knock you out of this if you are a player. But anyway, we'll see how it plays out. There'll be balancing and things like that before the game comes out, so we'll see what happens. At the end of here, he does say next week, as mentioned before, we're going to be covering new cultural mechanics that are coming to Project Caesar. I wonder if they've learned things from Crusader Kings 3 after their culture rework. That was a massive hit, so I wonder if they're going to bring some kind of mechanics over similar to the Crusader Kings 3 stuff. But anyway, we'll find out next week. So on that note, we'll leave it there for today. So hit that like button if you've enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new here. I'm covering all the dev diaries up to official announcement, launch and beyond. And I also cover Crusader Kings 3 in a very similar way if you do enjoy it. But we'll leave it there, and I'll see you in the next one.